she's a really, yeah, we can't change it for the last. The voices.
Had to throw this in the trash.
If Trent's name is Kim, these mics aren't messing around.
We are here for county council regular session and then budget sessions. So before we begin the budget work session, we have some business to take care of. So I'm calling the regular session portion of the Monroe County Council to order for Wednesday, September 7th. I'd like to do just a roll call vote. Roll call to see if who's here. So I'll go down the line. Counselor Hawk. Just say here. Counselor McKim.
Here.
Counselor Crossley.
Here.
Counselor Deckard.
Here.
And Counselor Munson.
Here.
And I do know that Counselor Iverson is on his way. He had a late meeting. So Everyone is here in the room except for Counselor Iverson. And the next thing I need to do is adopt the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove an item from tonight's regular session agenda?
Council, I'd like to make a motion to table item number 3 on this regular session agenda until our meeting on Tuesday, September 13th.
Second.
Okay. Are there any council comments or questions about discussion about the tabling? No? Okay, and in that case, do we need public comment on that? No. Okay, then we will have a voice vote on the tabling. All in favor of tabling item number 3 till Tuesday, the 13th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. And with that, we have no items left on the regular session agenda. So I'm going to adopt and adjourn. All in one motion. Do I need to do any more than that to make it official? Okay, great. So now what I'd like to do is call to order the first session of the 2023 budget work session reviews and receive and discuss departmental budgets. I want to note for the record again that council members are all here in person except for Counselor Iverson. I'm not trying to single him out like that. I apologize, but he will be here shortly. We do not have anyone attending virtually on the council. So welcome, everyone. As we have a new member to the process, I'd like to remind council members and the public that during these sessions, we accept, review, and discuss departmental budgets that are presented to council. This is not the final approval for the 2023 Monroe County annual budget, nor is it a formal budget hearing. The public hearing is scheduled for October 4th at 5:30 p.m. and the budget final adoption will occur on Tuesday, October 18th at 5:30 p.m. The public can make comment regarding a budget during those meetings. As we begin, a department will be invited to join us here in the Nat U Hill Room or via Zoom. As a reminder, departments have been allotted an amount of time for their budget review. And this was based on their presentations from the previous year. And that's a little negotiable. You know, we're not timing everybody down to the second, but we're just trying to keep things moving along and hopefully get out of here before midnight. That's my goal. As always, council can extend that time, but we need to be mindful and keep our discussion focused on the budget reviews. If a non-budget topic requires further discussion, we'll have Mrs. Shell, Council Administrator, make arrangements on our next available agenda, regular or work session to continue the discussion. Departments then have been allotted an amount of time to explain any increases, decreases, or additions to their budget. Council members will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the elected officials and department heads. And council will also have an opportunity to make any recommendations to increase or decrease account lines based on the discussion and or the need of the department. Then council will take a voice vote to approve the department's reviewed budget request, assuming that Counselor Iverson gets here. Again, this is not the final approval, and it is just a recognition of the requests that have been presented or then amended by council. Are there any questions from council members before we move on? No? Okay. So does anyone wish to add or remove an item from tonight's budget session agenda? All right, then we move to the review and I'd like to, of expenditures and revenues. And I'd like to give Councilor McKim a few minutes to review our 2023 revenue and expenditure totals as we begin this process.
Oh, you want me to?
I'm bouncing it over to you.
Okay. May I share my screen? Sorry, may I, let's see, I believe I can share my screen. Can I? Yes. Thank you very much. You'll see that what I have on the screen, and counselors have had access to this in the Dropbox for a while, is just sort of my summary of the 4B statements that are already in Gateway for the key funds, or most of the key funds that we tend to spend the most time and effort on. In particular, you see that kind of left of this big column labeled frozen levy, we have the 6 funds that make up the frozen property tax levy. That's general, election, health, aviation, reassessment, and cumulative bridge, along with the totals for those 6 funds. And then right of that bar, I have the PS lit, the lit special purpose, the PS is public safety, the lit special purpose, which we used to call juvenile COET. And then I've also added the cable franchise fees fund, because there's some kind of important IT things budgeted in cable franchise fees. I'd be perfectly happy to add other funds to this draft 4B if anyone wanted to. In general, all of the information on this spreadsheet comes directly out of Gateway. So you can go to Gateway and see all of these numbers in Gateway for each of the funds individually. There are a couple of exceptions. One is that the Gateway does not yet at this point include the property tax levy. And so that's a pretty big one. So if you actually look at the Gateway 4Bs right now, all of the operating balances are going to look negative and it's going to look horrible. But that's because a major portion of the revenue is not yet actually included. What I've done here, and so I put the property tax levy on line 11. Now you'll remember though that the county council has the ability to move money among the different, or move property tax levy among the different funds in the frozen levy. So that's a decision we'll make at the end when we adopt the budget and rates and levies. The only thing to remember at this point, so in other words, the numbers that you see in line 11 right now are just numbers that I have put in kind of based on my best judgment. They will undoubtedly change as we move through the budget process and as the council chooses to adopt the levy. The only important thing to remember is that all 6 of those property tax levies under line 11 for the frozen levy have to add up to no more than $24,451,586. It's that number that you see in orange there. That is let me zoom in more, that number right there. So those 6 numbers have to add up to that no more than the 21,451,000, and hopefully not much less than either, because then we're leaving money on the table. But what I've done is I've kind of set just for discussion, I've set amounts for each of the levies in the frozen levy that leave us with a reasonable operating balance for the fund in question. And in particular, I have, right now we have an operating balance, which, and when we say operating balance percentage, what this is after everything is expended and earned for 2022 and 2023. So on December 31st, 2023, if all these other things come true, then that operating balance is the amount we have left in the bank. And I know that the accountants will generally have recommendations for what percentage that operating balance should be as a percentage of the overall budget. And so what I've done is I've allocated property tax levy to each of these funds so that generally the operating balances are at least 20%, although it looks like health is 19%. So we may want to bump that up a little bit. And reassessment is considerably lower because there are no salaries in that fund. And generally you want to have, the operating balance is really important when you have salaries in there, because you need to be able to make payroll and you need to be able to have enough cushion there to make payroll. But like I said, we can, we'll change those numbers undoubtedly. So with the budgets that have been submitted, what we see are, the budgets that have been submitted are in yellow. Those are going to agree with the numbers, presumably, that we'll be hearing tonight. And then if you want to look at where that puts us, if we were to adopt that entire budget, where that puts us with respect to this year's revenues, well, I'm sorry, this year, let's call it 2023's revenues. That's going to be in line 32, where it says net 2023 revenue. What that means is that's how much net revenue we have for the year if we adopted the budget as is. And so what that says is that the general fund, we're essentially now right now looking at a deficit of $4.6 million for the year based on what's been entered so far. Now, we already know that 1.9 million of that is some extra highway money that was put in there for council discussion. And so you definitely don't panic when you look at that. But the other thing that we can also see is that we've got that still, even if we were to expend all that, that leaves us with a relatively healthy operating balance of 34%. So that's still, even if we actually expended that, but approved the budget as is, we'd be burning down a lot of cash, but we would still at least have enough that this year we wouldn't be panicking. So that's kind of the way that you can interpret all those numbers. I did the same for the public safety lit, which although there's a slight budgeted deficit based on the submission so far, it still has a very healthy operating balance of almost 60%. The juvenile COET has an extremely healthy operating balance of 115%. And then I also added cable franchise fees just because I'm getting a little bit concerned about the operating balance on that based on the large number of IT expenses that we're being asked to put in there. So I'm not saying we don't need it. We'll hear about that budget later today. I'm just saying that it's an area of concern potentially for future years. So those are my comments. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to say or.
Thank you. Councilor McKim? Councilor Hawk.
I didn't hear you mention, did you add the revenue in from that transfer from per diem on this as yet?
Sorry. Yeah, there actually are two things to mention on that. First of all, yes, according to the auditor's office, the transfer from per diems is listed in the revenue expect to receive. So that is in the general fund right now. All that cash that was transferred a couple of weeks ago from per diems to general. That just want to confirm that's correct?
Yes, that is true. And the other comment I had is when I set the operating balance for these, after you guys set your budget, I will right size these operating balances to maximize the amount that goes into the general fund. Like right now, aviation is 29%. I like there to be 3 months of cash in each account, except for assessment, because there's usually no assessment emergencies. We know there can be health emergencies. So any extra money, I will sweep that into the general fund because that's where we would do additional appropriations first for any major emergency. We do that every year. So these are targets that he's just set based on where it looks like today, but that is set after you guys close your budgets out.
And I apologize. There is one other thing that I wanted to mention that's different from Gateway. Right now in Gateway for cable franchise fees, I think Gateway says we expect $42,000 in additional appropriations, but we already know we have a request for $208,000 in front of us. So I've changed that number on my spreadsheet to $208,000, just so we have a more realistic understanding of what that fund's going to look like.
What do you have on the spreadsheet for the anticipated per diem revenue under miscellaneous revenue? I spoke with Bree, and I think she was going to put it in at maybe, was it 300,000
That's right.
for the miscellaneous revenue expected for next year?
Yes.
So
And the
that would
only
be
reason-
already under line 13 then.
Yeah, she's not here tonight because her husband is out of town, so she has childcare duties that she had to do. Her parents moved from Michigan to here. So that's very exciting for them. She got, because they're new residents. So she couldn't be here tonight. She wishes she was. Yes, that's true. The other thing I want to mention is these are all the funds that add up to the levy. These are not rate control funds. These are operating balance control funds. The other funds would be rate control funds, and that would be Cume Bridge, Cume Cap, and Major Bridge.
All right. Are there any other comments or discussion from council before we move to our first budget session? Go ahead.
I only wanted to say to council, I apologize for my tardiness, but I'm glad to join you.
For the record, Peter Iverson has arrived. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Puzzlements? Okay.
Let's move on.
Then I would like to now invite Jessica McClellan, County Treasurer, to join us. Welcome.
Council, I move to open for discussion to review Fund 100000003, General Fund Treasurer, category requests of personnel, $499,508. In the supplies category, $3,800. In the services category, $53,350, for a total of $556,658.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening, council.
Good evening. Would you like to take us through a little bit? That'd be great.
Yes, I will. We have the same staff that we have had for several years, and things are operating very smoothly in the treasurer's office. And so I've made the adjustments that came from Kim to our salaries. And so there's most of our, actually, almost all of our changes are only in personnel. So we made those adjustments that came from the council office to personnel. And when my salary goes up, my dues go up. And so I made the appropriate adjustment to the dues line to cover that. My big expenses in the office are mailing tax bills, so printing and postage. And the amount that I had budgeted last year was more than enough to cover the bills last year. And I always ask for an estimate for like how much costs are going to go up each year. And they always tell me that it's going to be about the same. And they say, well, it's always hard to estimate postage and yada, yada, but postage really did more than enough cover it this year. And so I would like to leave postage and printing the same for this year. And we're really a low key office. Like all the work we do is kind of on the phone and with letters. And so there's not really a lot to keep us chugging along, just keeping people happy in the office and yeah, getting those tax bills out.
Great, thank you. Are there any council questions or comments? All right.
We're always pleased because you always bring us a good budget, and I thank you for that. And thanks for taking time to talk with me the other day.
You're welcome.
I guess I just would like, the budget is great. I guess I'd just like to hear, kind of what your experiences are this year versus previous years in terms of people receiving their tax bills electronically, paying electronically.
Mhm.
What kind of uptake are you seeing? In
So
those?
people receiving their tax bills electronically, that's a big thing we're trying to push towards, but I don't, so we send about 10%. I did a little back of the napkin calculations here. We send about 47,000 tax bills and we have about 4,000 signed up for e-billing. And so that's just about 10%. And I would say that the e-billing program isn't really that successful even for the users, because users sometimes don't maintain their records in the e-billing system as carefully as they should. And sometimes they're not even getting bills emailed to them that they should be, or they're not being emailed to the right person because emails change, or even when the property transfers. There's a lot of work on the back end with the e-billing, and that's part of the reason why it hasn't been that successful. And then you ask about paying online, and we're just going more and more towards that. It's been pretty consistent, just a little bit over a third, and we're getting closer to half of people paying online. People who actually pay online. It's a majority of our payments come through escrow still, and I don't really call that is kind of like an electronic payment, but I don't count that as people who make the effort to go online and pay online. And the majority of our online payments are e-check. E-check is a flat fee of $1.50, and credit card fees are kind of a big sticking point with taxpayers. Why do we have to pay 2.45% to pay with a credit card? That's across the board. That's industry wide. That's very standard. But really, almost all of our taxpayers are paying that $1.50 surcharge to pay with an e-check. So I feel pretty good that credit card charge isn't affecting the majority of our taxpayers.
Thank you. Very informative.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
That was
Actually,
easy.
I have one more comment. You guys, just a quick update. You guys had, we talked last about a $30,000 appropriation and contractual for doing a microfilm project, and that's gone really, really well. That's completed, and I believe I still have around $10,000 or $15,000 left in there. So we're going to have, there's another couple more boxes of books downstairs. We're going to have those scanned and microfilmed as well with the remainder of that money this year. So
Very
thank
cool.
you for doing that. It worked out really well.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm done now.
Appreciate it. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Now we have to, what do we do? Voice vote now that Peter's here, I believe. So all those in favor of accepting the treasurer's general fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. This concludes the budget review for the treasurer's office. And now we move to HR Employee Services Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 100000309, General Fund Employee Services Department, category requests of $166,391 in the personnel category, $1,000 in the supplies category, and $46,153 in the services category, for a total of $213,544.
Second.
And we have our personnel administrator, Elizabeth Simpson-Stein here. Welcome, E.
Good evening, council. I first wanted to express my appreciation for council and especially Kim during the budget process. No, do I need to get closer? There. And especially Kim through the budget process, it was pretty seamless switching to Lao, and Kim was really helpful. The employee services is financed solely through county general funds. The budget before you represents an increase in the publications line because some of our compliance items are going to be up for renewal in 2023. And then you'll also see the amount in the countywide employee training line, which represents the annual amount for the Fred Pryor training, which was not in there previously last year. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. Are there questions to my right? Any questions to my left?
The extra amount for the employee, countywide employee training, do you want to talk about what kind of training and so forth you're proposing?
I'm not proposing anything. That was a contract that was approved in 2022 for the Fred Pryor online training for employees. And that's the annual amount that will be required to be paid according to that contract.
Okay, so are you intending to continue on with whatever program?
It's a 3-year contract.
Thank you.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No.
Actually, I was just going to ask, what kind of usage are you seeing? Do you have any data?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of really great feedback, departments using it for their employees to provide that training, and then also employees that are going in and utilizing it on their own when they have the ability and the time to do that, outside their regular duties. So there's been good feedback, I think.
Any other? Yes, Mr. Iverson.
So some people might recall that we did Garden LLC training. Is that ongoing? Has that contract stopped? Can you kind of update us on that?
Sure. We just completed a group of employees. There is a minimum amount of employees in the contract that needs to be trained. And I think we've talked about that previously. We just finished another group, I think of about 20 employees, plus some people that needed to do some makeup sessions. So that just completed about 2 weeks ago, I think. And we'll do one more training, hopefully by the end of the year to account for the rest of those employees. I think about maybe 10 more new hires, and anyone that needs to make up anything, before the end of 2022.
Great. That's a great training. I'm glad we're offering that still.
Yeah.
And is that a contract that continues, just annually renewed, or I can see people get?
Yeah, I think we're still working off of the original contract, and we've, what is the term? We've carried over some of those funds in order to be able to meet the contract requirements.
Okay. Oh, okay, great. So when you say you encumbered the funds
Yes.
over, then is the contract date finished and we're just finishing the terms? Do you know, maybe this is a commissioner's
I do
question.
not believe it is. I think there may have been a date, but there's also a minimum number of employees,
see.
and that's the goal
see.
that we're trying to meet to
Okay.
satisfy that
I'm just
contract at this
wondering
time.
if and when that would come back. It seems valuable to have ongoing onboarding training and have this be maybe a part of it.
Yeah, that is a conversation for what that with the commissioners, I think, about what that looks like moving forward. I
Okay.
think there are some options.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are going to vote with a voice vote. All those in favor of accepting the Employee Services Department's general fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. So that concludes employee services, and now we move to weights and measures.
Council, I'd move to open for discussion and review Fund 100000308, General Fund Weights and Measures, category requests of $77,051 in the personnel category, $5,435 in the supplies category, $2,000 in the services category, for a total of $84,486.
Second. Good
Welcome.
evening.
Welcome. Good to see you again. Do you want to tell us anything about the budget before we?
Well, the only change was a $150 change to the uniform line. Oh, I'm sorry. The only change was a $150 change to the uniform line. As usual, I try to keep mine pretty flat, so.
Okay. Are there any questions from, yes?
Yes.
So I noticed that fuel is flat. How are you doing with fuel this year?
Fuel, I seem to be doing well this year. I don't know if I've just changed my route or what, but I am going to have enough in the fuel line to cover the year. Next year, who knows?
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from council? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. That'll lead us to the vote, and all in favor of accepting the weights and measures general fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. This concludes weights and measures budget review. Up next, we have the Veterans Affairs Department.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 1000012, General Fund Veterans Affairs, category requests of $141,395 in the personnel category, $800 in the supplies category, $4,800 in the services category, for a total of $146,995.
Second.
Well, hello, Ms. Birdie.
Hello, I'm sitting in for Mr. Miller. However, I don't have anything in front of me, so I'll try to answer questions.
All right, I think they're going to hand you something. just kind of glancing through here myself.
Most
Okay.
things have gone down,
Yeah.
if not stayed the
Yeah,
same.
this is pretty
I was
straightforward.
gonna
and-
say, yeah, it's generally,
Mhm.
it's a very simple budget. Normally, it actually looks like he may have reduced the training and travel from times prior, because he's got a note here saying virtual training options are now available. So
Great, great. Are there any questions for Ms. Purdy, being aware that she might not have all the answers? No? Okay. Great. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And we'll go ahead. Good job. Go ahead and vote. So all those in favor of accepting the Veterans Affairs budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. That concludes Veterans Affairs Office, and now we move to the Legal Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000277, General Fund Legal, category requests of $662,020 in the personnel category, $1,145 in the supplies category, $44,258 in the services category, for a total of $707,423.
Second,
Welcome. It's
Thank
good
you.
to see you, Mr. Schilling.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to tell us about your budget?
Well, thanks. Dave Schilling from the Legal Department. The budget we present tonight is the same we presented last year, with the exception of the payroll lines, which were increased according to council instructions.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Schilling? Yes.
I guess I just wanted to confirm that any outside litigation is going to be handled through additional appropriation requests, potentially this year rather than through the annual budget process.
That is correct. You will see us again before the year's over,
Thank you.
sadly.
I like, well,
Sadly, but yeah, understood.
the transparency of that is good. So
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Any other questions or comments from council? Holy cow, we are going fast. All right, well, then we will do a voice vote. So all those in favor of accepting the legal department's general fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. That concludes the budget review for the legal department, and now we move to the building department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000312, General Fund Building, category requests of $763,074 in the personnel category, $6,485 in the supplies category, $37,075 in the services category, for a total of $806,634.
Second,
Well, welcome, Mr. LaRue. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your budget?
Bob, oh, sorry, Bobby, you need to scoot up and pull your mic. You talk too soft.
Is that better?
It is for me.
All right. The budget this year is essentially this same amount withstanding the personnel changes. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Okay. Are there any questions to my left? Mr. McKim?
I have two. First question is about vacancies. How many vacant positions do you currently have?
Currently, we have one vacant inspector position that we intend to fill. And there is one vacant position at the residential office manager that we are working on filling that currently. And, there is one vacant residential inspector that has been vacant for a number of years.
Okay.
We didn't fill it when Ellettsville took their building jurisdiction back. And it has been there. We don't intend to fill it at any time.
So that's in this budget. That
Yes,
position is in this budget, but at this point, you're not intending to fill it.
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Is that 13,109?
I believe that's correct, yes.
I'm sorry, which line did you say?
13,109 is the location.
So is there a reason, I mean, do you have any intention of filling it? Should we not just, I mean, I understand you don't want to eliminate the possibility of the position because if there's growth, you might want to keep it. I mean, is that the sort of thing where we might want to just so that the line stays there, put in $1 or something like that? I know we've done that with other lines. Or do you have some intention of filling it in the near future?
I don't have any intention of filling it in the near future. Right now, we have a lot of apartment construction happening, but it kind of goes in waves and cycles, right? Not that long ago, we had a great deal of residential construction happening. So I just felt like it was kind of nice to have the placeholder there to be able to come to you all if that need arises.
So this position, how long has it been vacant?
Probably 4 years, three or 4 years.
Personally, I think we ought to just, Michelle.
I would, if you want to reduce the amount, which I'm assuming that's what you're going to be doing here shortly, I would, so that it still populates into Lao and it's still an active, just leave it with $1.
That's what I was thinking, so that we keep the position up.
Sorry, council. We're not clear that that particular line is in fact the vacant line. I can confirm that in my office, but it's going to be taking a little longer than just right now, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'll confirm the line that's vacant.
Well, then I have one other question that's really probably more for the either auditor's office or for Michelle. It looks like there's a line there for gas, oil, and lube. That's the fuel that the employees use for their vehicles, right?
Yes.
So why do some departments have a fuel line and others have gas, oil, and lube? It seems like we want to have it be the same, so we could just look across the board. What's our fuel consumption?
Right, and that is a carryover from Harris. And every year I try to consolidate lines. I've been working on the supply section. I haven't kind of made it to the services part yet, but I have been working with Bree and other departments on consolidating. So I hope to get that, since we've done the WIS, we've got all of the titles and new account lines for the WIS for this one. That is our next project for next year, is to consolidate account lines. So eventually you will see fuel.
It's just that since there's such a variation, that might be a useful thing to actually look at across the departments, what our fuel
Yes.
numbers look like.
Yeah, and there, we just, and as an example, we have there's a couple lines where it says maintenance vehicle, and then you can find one that's called vehicle maintenance. So, we're just trying to clean things up, and it's, like I said, it's a carryover from Harris. We just haven't got it cleaned up yet.
I do want to point out that the expenses are the same. When we buy the fuel, there's taxes taken off the fuel, so we buy it at a different cost. So when they fuel up at where they get their fuel at, it's discounted fuel, whether it's in this line or another line. It costs the exact same.
Right, I get it. They're not going to Kroger to buy their gas.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Munson.
Yes, I have a question about the 2 office managers. They were moved from other account lines to this line, to this particular budget. Were they in a different budget previously?
They had different titles previously.
Different titles.
So they were kept in the budget under the old title, so that you could see the change that was made, but they have, the 2 positions have new titles. The vacant line is 13,106.
Okay, so thank you. And one other question. Is it possible that you could have an inspector who would cover both residential and commercial, or are they so very different that a person cannot be trained to do both?
No, a person can be trained to do both. The difficulty comes in that each of the codes has slight variations. A perfect example that's easy to remember is rise run on stair construction. But there are other places where fire rated construction really primarily applies to commercial inspectors. And it's detailed and it's complicated in some cases. So it really does kind of help out a lot to keep things moving smoothly when we have dedicated inspectors to each of the different codes.
Thank you.
My question is in the personnel category, and I noticed that there are 3 or so where the amount in your budget is a decrease from last year's adopted budget. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about those decreases.
The decrease, I believe, happens because of longevity of employment. So as we're hiring new people, we moved the budget to reflect first-year salaries and not the salaries of long-term employees.
That makes sense.
Council, I move that we set line 13106, residential building inspector, a position that is currently in and will be for the foreseeable future vacant, to $1.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on the motion? Okay, all in favor of adopting the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
We'll actually still have to do a vote on that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, just give me 1 moment.
Okay. Are we ready to go?
That's the new personnel line amount right there.
Do I need to read that now?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm gonna do I do all 3 categories plus the total bottom line together? Does that make
I
sense?
would, yeah.
Okay. And if you can scroll as we move, and
Yes.
that will help me. I want to read some new bottom lines for the building department. In the personnel category, $712,486.
466.
Oh, my bad eyes. And so in the personnel category, $712,466. In the supplies category, it'll be $6,485. In services, be $37,075 for a total of
756,026.
$756,026.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it's, well, is it just reading it in?
It's
Just
amended.
reading the amended
Okay.
bottom line. that we
Okay.
got.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the building department's amended budget request as stated by Counselor Deckard, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And now we have the Technical Services Department. Welcome.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 100000106 General Fund TSD category requests of $234,152 in the personnel category, $11,600 in the supplies category, $400,000 in the services category, for a total of $645,752.
Second.
Welcome. And would you like to take us through a little bit of your budget, Mr. Crowe?
Good evening, council. I think most of you know me, Greg Crum, Technology Services Director. This is Wendy Goss. She's our Office Financial Manager and phone expert. So any questions you have in that line, she should be able to answer for you. So not many changes here. Most of them to our county gen was payroll lines. We did have one notable exception in our telephone maintenance line. Currently running in the red on that line for some costs. So we were looking for an increase in that line. So.
Right. Are there any questions for Mr. Crone on the budget to my left?
Well, yes, Mr. Cronin, I appreciate you answering all my questions before. Can you just talk a little bit more about the telephone situation, just because that really is a pretty substantial increase?
It is, and I understand the reason for everyone's pause on that. One thing that AT&T has increased its analog line charges. We do have a lot of analog lines still at the county, both for redundancy, fax lines, and some other communications that has to be on that. AT&T has dramatically raised their monthly charges on those analog lines. Additionally, during COVID, we deployed a lot of iPads, tablets, cell phones, devices using data plans, the MiFi devices. Those monthly charges have racked up. Right now, I'm roughly $160,000 in the red on my telephone maintenance line. Wendy and I have gone through and identified the 30 analog lines that were no longer used. We have had those lines terminated, so we're trying to get that bill down as quickly as possible. One of those lines was getting ready to total $18,000 a month. So getting that knocked out of there was a major.
What was that number?
$18,000 a month for a single line.
Why?
What that was an old T1 service line we had running between the Justice Building and the courthouse. It had never been terminated. AT&T is getting away from analog service as much as possible. So they're raising costs. For one, as customers come off, the burden falls on those who are still using those services. And AT&T is also increasing those costs as a deterrent to get you off of those. So when we started seeing those numbers, the alarms bells start really ringing. So we went through with a fine tooth comb, trying to identify every line we could to drop. I've also begun reaching out to the various departments about their wireless devices. We can see on reports devices that have regular use, those who do not. I'm trying to recall those devices back that aren't in use so that we can kill those and not pay the monthly charge on that. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Thank you. Thanks for the explanation.
Question.
Just a follow-up to that. How many wireless devices are out there that aren't being used?
Rough count on that, do you know?
I mean, a guesstimate is fine. But
I'm sorry.
a guesstimate is fine.
We have, I was going to say the last number I saw was roughly 25, but I can get you that number, but I don't have an exact number with me here.
And how many total wireless devices are out there?
Well over 100.
Okay.
We have a lot of cell phones that are on data plans where they're unlimited data plans, but we pay through FirstNet a large sum of money to have that service. So that's what we got.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Ms. Presley.
I have a quick question. I don't know if this is first budget for me. So hopefully this is where I should be directing the question. So you just mentioned AT&T is increasing the prices for lots of different things, correct?
For analog phone service,
Okay.
yes.
Is there, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this is a question I should be directing this to you. Is there any chance of possibly looking outside of AT&T for services?
We are, most of our systems are on network voice over IP. So we use AT&T and Mitel for that. A lot of the analog lines that we've seen, the service isn't required anymore, so we've terminated them. The ones that are there, we don't have an option. There's only one local provider here in town that can, so that's why we're trying to get this down to as minimum number as we can and trying to get those charges to where it's a $70 a month line charge versus several hundred. So
Got it.
we're cutting
Or
where we can.
18,000
I'm sorry.
or 18,000.
Or 18,000, correct. So we've had several talks with our AT&T representative about all this. One, we were a little disappointed they didn't give us any kind of heads up. We got basically we're getting a bill that notified us rather than a notice of, hey, we're getting ready to dramatically increase your cost. So we've had a lot of discussions with our AT&T rep trying to get this straightened out.
I think a lot of people can probably relate to that.
Yes.
Well, kudos to you all for trying to get those costs down as much as possible, because that's insane, but thank you.
Other questions? Services? No? Great, okay. Then we will go ahead and vote. So all in favor of accepting the Technical Service Department's General Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We do have an 11B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 11700106, Public Safety Lit TSD category requests of $80,000 in the services category for a total of $80,000.
Second.
Could you just describe this line for us real quick?
This is the one. Yeah. This is another telephone line that we have for our first responders. This is our sheriff's department, our emergency management, health department, and some of our coroner's charges. This is for the FirstNet wireless first responders. Their phones are paid for separately out of this PS Lit fund. Again, it's another service, any wireless service that cost increase has gone up slightly for the data plans. So that's why we are requesting an additional $10,000 to allow for additional increases throughout the year.
Do we have any questions from council members? Questions on my right? No? Okay. In that case, all those in favor of accepting the Technical Services Department's Public Safety Lit Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And that concludes the Technical Services Department budgets.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. That brings us to emergency management with item 12A.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 100000361, General Fund Emergency Management category requests of $156,643 in the personnel category, $5,700 in the supplies category, and $36,636 in the services category for a total of $198,979.
Second.
Welcome. It's good
Hello.
to see you, Ms. Nebel.
It's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Would you want to tell us anything about your budget? Anything of note that we should
Sure.
pay attention to?
So it's basically the same as last year. There's only 3 differences. One of those would be in the program supplies. We are due for the hazard mitigation plan update in 2023. So I figured we may have a little extra cost with that due to meetings and things of that sort. The other item that has an increase is the training and travel. My deputy and myself are going to be pursuing our certified emergency management certification in the next couple of years. So we'll be attending and doing some extra training for that. The other item is the radio, CD, and sirens item. Late last year, the vendor changed for the contracted maintenance, which was a bit of an increase. So That contract was $19,620 and last year $22,000 was budgeted, which didn't leave a very wide margin for maintenance, actual maintenance work. So I've increased that to kind of take in consideration that contract increase and a possible increase. You know, typically every contract increases every year, although we haven't begun those negotiations yet, but I do anticipate that there will be an increase. And then, of course, some actual fixing maintenance of some sirens as well.
Okay, are there any questions on my right? Yes.
Actually, not a question, but I would ask you to explain about additional sirens and where those funds come from. Because we've talked about needing additional sirens.
Yeah, so the first priority is to fix some of the ones that we already have. Some of the parts and pieces of them have become obsolete. They are 21 years old, which, you know, in my world is not that old, but in the siren world is a little bit of age. So we are going to try to get on a plan to replace those as they go. And then we will look to add extra after that.
How many sirens do we have?
41 that we maintain.
So will you do it on a cycle of ever so many a year? Do you have that kind of figured out, how many per year?
Yes, so the preliminary plan is over a 5-year span, we'll be doing 7 a year. That's what
I thought I
thought.
saw. Okay. Yeah, that's terrific. Are there questions or comments to my left? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate the mention of the certifications. I think that's important in the role that you're in. In previous budget hearings, we've talked about that a little bit. And I think that that's so key because I think things change a lot for the headaches that come your all's way. And hopefully we don't have any of those, but it's good that you're prepped for that through that process.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the emergency management's general fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And now we go to 12B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1152-0000, Emergency Management Right to Know category requests of $100 in the personnel category, $8,550 in the supplies category, $1,500 in the services category, for a total of $10,150.
Second.
Could you tell us a little bit about what this is?
Sure.
Thanks.
So this budget has not changed at all from previous years. It's not funded through county funds. It is funded through the Emergency and Preparedness Community Right to Know Act. It's a long one. I try not to use the acronyms because there are a lot. So, but yeah, so chemical facilities in the community pay into this, pay a fee for this act, and then those fees come back to the local emergency planning committee, the LEPC. And it's the LEPC that is responsible for, you know, the hazmat planning and exercises and preparedness. Ugh, too many P's.
Great. Are there any questions on this budget? To my left? To my right? No? Okay. Pretty straightforward then. All those in favor of accepting the Emergency Management Department's Right to Know Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. That concludes the budget review for the Emergency Management Office. And now we move to item 13A with our Highway Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1135-0000, cumulative bridge category requests of $397,440 in the personnel category, $317,500 in the supplies category, $1,125,681 in the services category, for a total of $1,840,621.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Ridge. So you've got the assistants tonight.
Yep, Toby Turner, our highway superintendent.
Welcome.
I will answer any questions you have. There was no major changes. We stayed within the 5% COLA that was across the board. We increased a couple projects, the Bells Road project, that road, Bridge 79. We increased the line for our bridge deck work and asphalt within 500 feet of a bridge or culvert approach, and then Bridge 913, Old 37 North for some repairs.
Okay, are there any questions or comments to my left? To my right? No? Well, okay then. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of accepting the highways, make sure I'm in the right one here, cumulative bridge fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes, and let's move to 13B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1169-0000, local roads and streets, category requests of $620,000 in the supplies category, $80,001 in the services category, $120,000 in the capital category, for a total of $820,001.
Second.
I love the $1.
Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. The equipment that we are looking at is a skid steer track option. We have a lift in the county garage that has been there since the building was built since 1996. So it's starting to have some wearing to that. So we're looking at alternatives of replacing that. And then also some portable lifts that we are actually have for loan right now to try those as a solution as today in place of that lift. And then looking at maybe a tack buggy replacement. I did create an Old State Road 37 South and Dillman Road project. That's a project that we would like to apply for HSIP funds, Highway Safety Improvement Program. Probably in this call for the NOFA call that'll be in November with NDOT. We have that under design at this time. We increased the bituminous line by $100,000 to improve the paving program. And the remainder of cash funds are used for the major infrastructure projects that are grant funds, such as Hunters Creek Road and Sample Road that are under construction.
Great, thank you. Are there questions or comments to my right? Are there any questions or comments to my left, Mr. McKim?
Yeah, would the HSIP project, does that go through the MPO?
Yes, this intersection is the borderline within the MPO, but after talking with NDOT, when you do it through their NOFA call, they have they have their own sources of HSIP funds to where it would not be run through the MPO.
Okay, so it really wouldn't, in other words, the other LPAs of the MPO would have no reason to oppose it then, because they wouldn't be losing anything.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm just trying to be delicate about that.
Are there any other questions, concerns about the budget? I would like, if you wouldn't mind, just I mean, I know we've had some conversations about this, but if you could talk about the increase to the bituminous line and why.
Absolutely. The local, so we have the MBH budget is mainly our source, that has been our source for many years for paving. After we do our overhead expenses and keeping a shop going, we usually typically have 1 to 1.4 million left over, and we put that all into bituminous for paving. As of today, it costs about $100,000 to do 1 mile of paving, and we maintain 725 miles of roadway. So we started utilizing the local road and street fund more, and also the Cume Bridge fund for paving purposes. We are allowed to use 500 feet on each end of a bridge for asphalt. So we did that this year with all of our projects. Local road and street budget, it will eventually be able to be used more for paving. We're trying to trickle a little bit more to it each time that we finish a project. We were able to move out the Curry Pike project that used to be in the local road and street and TIF budget. So we've moved those into grant funds. The Hunters Creek Road project We're finishing up with phase 2 and 3. We pay our matches for those. We pay for change orders. So we've kind of held on tight to the local road and street to finish those major infrastructure projects. So it's our goal to eventually we'd like to see $1 million put into a bituminous line in local road and street. And that's kind of what we're gearing for. Our goal is to improve the paving program as much as we can. It's probably the most complaints that we receive. People want the road paved, and we understand. We wish we could pave more, but we apply for the grants that are out there at every opportunity. We've been awarded paving projects every time, but it still is a long way to go to reach 725 miles.
About how many miles are you doing each year?
So this year, utilizing all the budgets that we had and pulling everywhere, we were able to do about 34, 35 miles this year. To our knowledge, that's the most that we've done. And that is in-house, and that is outside sources that we contracted out and bid out. We think that works better for us to where we can keep things going like mowing. We were able to have 4 mowers running the whole season, which takes 8 guys with a follower. If we do paving in-house, it takes everybody we have to be able to do that. So we do the smaller jobs in-house and contract out the bigger jobs, and also seek community crossing funds. So this year, we're pretty proud of the paving program we built, and we just want to keep building on that program.
35 miles total paved.
And you have to also
Full
keep
width
it,
pavement, and that's not included some of the paver patch and stuff you guys see around where
Sure.
we smoothed up some spots here and there. That's full width.
Oh,
it's full paving.
full
Yeah.
pavement.
And also our bituminous line is used for pothole patching. So that goes to paving and pothole patching. So anytime we use that line, that's what that's for, and the paver patching.
Great. Thank you. I always learn something from you.
I always learn something from everybody. So
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of accepting highways, local roads and streets fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And now we have item 13C.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 11710000 County Major Bridge, category requests of $2,856,992 in the services category, for a total of $2,856,992.
Second.
we really don't have any changes to this budget. We have 2 major bridges that are, one is going to letting in July of 2023, the Fullerton Pike Phase 3 Bridge. And then Mount Tabor Road Bridge, we hope to go to construction the following year. So that's what these funds are for. You can use these for a bridge that's over 200 feet in length, and these 2 bridges fit that category.
Great. Are there questions to my left? Any questions to my right? All right. All those in favor of accepting the Highways County Major Bridge Fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And we move to 13D.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 1176-0530-0531 and 0533 Motor Vehicle Highway, category requests of $3,575,983 in the personnel category, $2,468,301 in the supplies category, $1,362,700 in the services category, and $12,003 in the capital category, for a total of $7,418,987.
Second.
All right, we are going to discuss and review.
Okay.
Would you like to start?
So I do want to point out that we put $2 million into the bituminous line. Typically, we put 1 million. I know we've had discussions with you all about seeking outside sources for that extra $1 million. We put that in to show that if we ask for that extra million, it takes us a little over $1 million over our estimated revenue. So we will really want you to delete that extra $1 million. We just wanted you to see it and what it does to our budget. I really want to point that part out. So we're not asking for any equipment. We're not asking for any vehicles this year. We want to put everything that we can towards paving. We did change locators and working with Kim and Bree. The MVH budget was set up a little bit different. It had 0530 locators, 0531 and 0533. We've reached out to State Board of Accounts. There's no reason for those separations. So we want this to follow the same guidelines as the other budgets and everything be consistent. So you'll notice that the 0531, 0533, and 0532 have been eliminated and replaced with 0 locators. We didn't include the 2023 numbers into the 0531 categories. We left those zeros, so we'll have the history. So that is why it appears to be 2 separate budgets. If you noticed in the 0531s, we're not asking for anything in 2023. It all switches to the new budget of the 0 locators. We had some minimal changes. Fleet maintenance, we had some duplicated lines. We're kind of like Kim, we're trying to clean up some areas that we felt there was some duplication over the years. We made a new line for GPS tracking. We have found that a great resource. We can, if we receive a complaint or a tree down, we can find out who is our closest personnel to that location to get that hazard eliminated immediately. Our snow issue. We did put in a $70,000 increase for repair building and structure. That's for a concrete pad up on our lot that needs repaired. And I think that's the major. We did increase gas, oil, and lube, of course, due to the escalated gasoline costs.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions to my right? Yes, Mr. Iverson.
So first of all, I think that GPS service is really exciting. I think that, and that's all based on, is it GIS data or is that solely, well, I guess, yeah, could you talk about it?
So we talked to a couple companies a couple years ago. We ended up going with Verizon Connect. They came out, they installed all the equipment. The equipment went into equipment and dump trucks. We are able to pull up the app on your computer, and it's live. You can track history. A lot of times we've received complaints that our truck was at this location. We can go back and say, no, we didn't do that damage. It was not our truck. And it's really paid for itself. Sometimes if the guys are out for long hours and you don't hear from them or they don't answer the radio, it can raise concern. So we can track that vehicle where it's at and make sure that they're safe and haven't run off in a ditch or something like that. So we find it very valuable for those types of circumstances.
Yeah, it sounds like a game changer in terms of liability. It also makes me think that there's a lot of other departments who send people out into the field that could use a similar system. I immediately think of like septic or other things like that.
It has worked really well out for our dispatcher. He sits by the phone for 8 hours, or if he's there for a snow event for 30 hours. And the calls are continuous of people calling in for complaints. So again, he can get on there, and if he sees that there's a truck that's right next to there, he can investigate it right then and they'll let us know what he finds out. That's our main goal for using the GPS.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, we have, you guys see our mowers parked around, we don't bring them back to the shop every day. Our grader sits out most of the time unless it needs service or something. So it's a criminal activity on those things. We've had a mower actually stolen before. So
Sure.
that was also a big advantage to getting us on those equipment.
I'm good. Okay.
Okay, any questions to my left?
I will say that it's kind of mean to make us cut $1 million out of paving here. Can you imagine the political videos? The county council cut $1 million from the paving budget.
I apologize for that. I wanted to stress to you what it would do to our budget. I'm not comfortable with going over our estimated revenue on any budget. As you see, I'm 300,000 over on Cume Bridge. So I will watch that really closely. So if I have to come in for an additional, but I guess it was to show you the need that is there, the complaints that we get. It's continuous.
Cost of materials.
Cost of materials are up. So.
Well, so, I mean, I guess we might as well just have that discussion now about the funding, because there are a couple of different options here. So clearly the revenues won't support the 2 million. So we know we need to, that's just a placeholder. We need to know, we need to take $1 million out here. It seems to me that our options, I see 5 possible different options here, assuming we take that $1 million out. We could just leave it at that, and that leaves us with less additional paving than we'd like to have. And maybe would that also leave us short of possible matches for community crossings?
Yes, so we just completed, we just submitted this round of community crossings, and our local match, if we were awarded the paving projects that we submitted, our match would be $835,000. That would take almost our full $1 million for 2023.
Got it.
So if we did get that, we would want to fulfill that obligation to do those projects, and that would leave us, 200 some
Almost
thousand
nothing
to,
left.
and we would patch around the rest of the year.
Yeah. Got it. So, yeah, so option 1 is essentially nothing. Option 2 is to pay for it out of county general, and we've already got a $1 million request in general. Another is to pay for it out of the economic development lit, which I know that, in some ways that makes a lot of sense. I think before we don't even have a budget for that in front of us. Before we would do that, we probably want to make sure we talk with Mr. Cockrell, because he's planning for the possible bond anticipation note for the purchase of the jail. We wouldn't want to do anything that would impair that, but at least that's a possible option, because that's new revenue coming in. There's ARPA. I mean, it's certainly, we do have the revenue replacement that would allow it to be used, would allow us to use ARPA. And then rainy day is our other source of kind of relatively unrestricted cash. So we have, I'd say, at least 5 different options for how to deal with that, assuming we know we need to cut it out of here. So I guess I'd like to know what everybody thinks, including the auditor and Ms. Turner King.
I do want to say that if we were to use lit before the anticipation note for the bond, these would be one-time expenses if it was a match, and it would be used and gone. We will start getting that money in January. It will come in pretty quickly. It's a substantial amount of money. So before that bond was made, before those commitments were made, we could certainly pay that amount off if we did it that way. I just want to let you know that you don't want, what Jeff is talking about is when it crosses, that money may be committed other places. But until then, it's uncommitted.
I mean, personally, that's my favorite location for it as well, but.
Councilor Hawk.
Oh, yes, I think definitely not county general, definitely not that. But we know that we can always, if we can't get it from any of the other funds, the state allows us to take it from rainy day. Now, I know that's not our first choice, but we know that's our fallback choice, so that highway will know your community crossing dollars are covered. And that's like, in my head, I had about $900,000, and that's about correct. That way you could leave, that frees up that money for your paving in your highway. So that's, I mean, we know we can do it, but we need to remove that extra $1 million out of the highway budget, because that's not responsible for us to approve something we know is not possible.
And I want to add, it's not to say that we would not, depending on what our revenue is next year, just like we did this year, there's always the possibility we could come in for an additional in 2023 to help with more paving, but we just have to wait and see what the revenue looks like at that time. That's why I'm just not comfortable going $1 million over a budget.
Right.
I just,
Go ahead.
Just wanted to chime in. I think that's a really good point, and I think that's why maybe the ARPA option isn't necessarily a good idea, because we just don't know so much of what's going on in the future, and just the ARPA has so many use cases that are defined by Treasury. So I'm hearing that we're whittling our options down.
Okay.
Going back to Dr. Smith's point about
Not really.
better. Going back to Auditor Smith's point on using the edit, I would be cautious in using it because earlier this week, Mr. Cockrell and I met with representatives from FSG, and we talked about the ban, and they expressed some concerns about using that for other expenses if we plan on using it for the ban for Fullerton Pike. So before committing it, I'd like to run that scenario by FSG to see if that in any way impacts our ban.
Okay. I think Ms. Munson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I had a comment to make based on what you reported, that we have 725 miles of road, and you accomplished 35 miles of paving this last year. And that works out to be a road gets paved once every 20 years. And we know that our roads don't last that long. I just think that that math is important for people to look at.
And that's not looking at paving a Curry Pike, which is 4 and 5 lanes.
Yeah, right.
Those bigger roads are taking way more money.
So it would be a better way to think about it in terms of lanes, maybe paving lanes.
You could talk about lane miles.
Yeah.
Lane
that.
miles, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's exactly where I was headed when I was asking about that. It's interesting.
I guess just to summarize where we were with the funding sources, my preference would still be economic development, but I'm certainly willing to have that conversation with both FSG and Mr. Cockrell to make sure it wouldn't impair anything else. And then we have rainy day as a fallback. So I mean, I think we can safely eliminate it both from MVH and from highway or from general today, but with the intention of in the next week or so coming up with a more definitive answer on what the strategy is. I mean, is everybody in support of, in principle of the additional paving money? I mean,
Yes.
we certainly don't want to miss out on it. I mean, we've been so successful in community crossings grants as it is, and we obviously want to do our best to double our money. So, okay, well, so with that in mind, council, I move that we reduce line 1176 by 2 minutes from $2 million to $1 million.
Second.
Are there further questions or comments on the motion specifically? Seeing none, all in favor of removing the funding as described by Councilor McKim, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. Do we have further discussion on the budget? No? Okay.
Just as a reminder, we always know that no matter what, if we leave it like this, they can't spend any more than what they get in. And so that's the reason why it's always easy to vote on this budget, because they can only spend what they get.
Keeps us honest. Okay, then all those in favor of accepting the Highways Motor Vehicle Highway Fund budget request, say aye.
Hold on.
We need to restate the numbers because we made a change, please.
All those in favor of hearing Mr. Decker give us a motion.
Appreciate it. All right, so let me reread these lines as we have them. In the personnel category, we have $3,575,983. In the supplies category, we have $1,468,301. In services, we have $1,362,700. In the capital category, $12,003, and a new total of $6,418,987.
No, it's not a new motion. It was,
All right, now I will ask everyone if you are in favor of accepting the Highways General Fund budget requests as just dictated by Counselor Decker. Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. E.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 100005331, General Fund Highway, category requests of $905,887 in the personnel category and $1 million in the supplies category for a total of $1,905,887.
second.
This is the big one, a big one.
So this was one of the options, I believe, that we talked about just a few minutes ago to eliminate.
This was already folded into the
Yes.
previous budget, so there's nothing that needs to be done.
So we are limited.
So we're just going to reduce it.
We really don't, do we even have to do?
Yeah.
If it's
So we
been
need to
averaged,
change
we made it
the total. Is that, and she's doing it.
To zero then, right? It's already been included. It's already been wrapped up in the budget that we just passed.
Right, so we just need to get this down to zero,
So we need to.
if I can find it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find it too. Sorry. I'm sorry, what's the locator on this one? This one? Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, yeah, it's already shows up as zero. At least in the,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got it on the screen right here. Yeah. It's,
Okay,
sorry, I'm not.
yeah, I see it.
Sorry, I'm still just trying to find it there. Okay, there it is. Council, I move we set the entire location 0531 in the general fund to zero.
Second.
Any discussion or questions about the motion? All those in favor of setting the total to zero and this fund, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Do we need to accept it as well, since now it's nothing?
Vote on the bottom line of zero.
yeah, with the bottom line of zero.
All right,
So yes.
I think so.
Okay, all right, so all in favor of accepting the Highways General Fund budget request as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes.
Remind me to bring my reading glasses tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know, I know.
Can you give me just a moment?
I have some in my purse, Jeff, if you want some.
Be very famous.
I'm sure they're much more stylish than anything I would come up with.
Yeah.
okay, and now we're at 13F.
Council, I moved open for discussion and review Fund 49200000 Westside Economic TIF category requests of $2,118,863 in the services category for a total of $2,118,863.
Second. But was that number 18,000 or 88?
Should be 18. Did I say it bad?
I'm looking at the spreadsheet Kim had sent out a couple days ago, and it says 2,188,000.
That's also what I'm looking at.
2,188. Yeah.
So
836.
88 is correct. Okay, yeah.
All right, 88. Let me
That's
read
what I
that
see.
back.
$2,188,863.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I see too, yeah.
That's what I have.
That.
I'm happy to answer any questions. This is pretty self-explanatory. We eliminated Profile Parkway Extension Project. That will be closing out. Vernal Pike Connector is a grant fund, so we'll transfer cash funds into that. The Curry Pike, Woodyard Smith Pike, that's a grant fund project to be completed this year. And the remainder of the estimated revenue is put into engineering, STEM, TIF annual review, and disbursement to the bank for bonds.
Any questions to my right? Questions to my left? Comments? All right. All in favor of accepting the Highways West Side Economic TIF Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. We are at 13G. Boy, it goes on and on.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 4921-0000 46 Corridor Economic TIF category requests of $290,925 in the services category for a total of $290,925.
Second.
Again, this budget, the estimated revenue is distributed between the annual review report, engineering, and the bank disbursement.
Any questions on this fund? Yes.
What's the what's the schedule on the I don't remember what it's called now, but the Stouts Creek.
The Hunter Valley Road.
Hunter Valley Road.
I believe they're still working under that. I think the owner of that area is working with a local engineer to get it designed. I know we've worked with Paul, the highway engineer, on different specifications for the building of that road.
Okay, so it is under engineering now.
Yes, to my knowledge it is, because we've just gone back and forth with the specs on building the road and sidewalks and things like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Right. All in favor of accepting the Highways 46 Corridor Economic TIF Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. 13H.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 4922-0000 Fullerton Pike Economic TIF category requests of, in the services category, $150,000 for a total of $150,000.
Second.
Anything to add on this one?
Again, it's just distributed to the annual report and engineering.
Any questions from council? All those in favor of accepting the Highways Fullerton Pike Economic TIF Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And we move to item 13I.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 4934-0000 Curry Profile EDA category requests of $48,549 in the services category for a total of $48,549.
Second.
Same with this budget, just through disbursement to the bank and the TIF annual report.
All right, any questions? Questions? No? Then, all in favor of accepting the Highways Curry Profile EDA Fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. On to 13J.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1197-0000 Stormwater Management category requests of $905,599 in the personnel category, $149,000 in the supplies category, $1,410,502 in the services category, $50,000 in the capital category, for a total of $2,505,101.
Second.
Okay.
No really big changes to this budget. It was presented to the Stormwater Board and approved before it was submitted to the auditor's office. We did have to increase our software line by 8,000, and that was because of the increased employees in the department and use the asset management program. We did include the new line for hydro seeding, which is 15,000 that we put in for that. We did put in for one stormwater vehicle replacement. And we increased gas, oil, and lube by 50,000 due to the escalating gasoline charges.
All right. Are there any questions to my right? Yes, Mr. Iverson.
Have you already started hydro seeding?
Pardon me?
Have you already started hydro
We
seeding?
have.
How's that
we-
working out?
Great.
Yeah?
So we've done Wisnam Road, Mount Carmel Road. We actually hired this out. It turned out really well. A lot of times, a property owner doesn't like the way we leave the looks, the appearance of a ditching project, but it's necessary to keep the water off the road. So this kind of helps it, the erosion, makes it look green, and the appearance is a lot better. It's a lot more accepted. We don't do it on every ditching project. It just depends on the terrain, if there's trees, whether or not it's yards. So we look at each location before we decide to do hydro seeding. And we also did in the community crossing grants for those roads that we submitted, we included hydro seeding to those projects.
Interesting. And public feedback has been good so far?
Yeah, the complaints that we used to receive on ditching were really just, we're not receiving them like we did. I think we're leaving it a lot more acceptable for the property owner to know that we're trying to make it better.
That's a plus. That's great.
It helps us as well because that straw that we put down too sometimes ends up in our own culverts. So-
Right.
Or right down the road or traffic blows it off or blows the seat off. So it's been it's expensive, but we get stuff growing very fast.
It's good feedback. Thanks.
Questions to my left? Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the Highways Stormwater Management Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And that concludes the budget review for the Highway Department.
Thank you. And thank you for the discussion on the paving and any assistance that you foresee in the next week. We appreciate it.
Sorry, Madam President.
I did have a question. How are you doing with vacancies?
We've had, we just now reposted on Indeed about a week and a half ago. We received 2 applications, I believe, during that time. And actually, I don't know if you're on the Indiana LTAP listserv. Some of the other counties just now reached out wanting to get information from other counties, how they're dealing with the CDL license. And I believe Brown County stated they have 6 positions open at this time. There's a couple other counties. We're still working with LTAP on a training program. I hope to have more information at AIC when we attend that, and then IACC. But they've been working on that all year to try and help the counties come up with some type of training program. It's just whether or not you have to have an on-site trainer also. So there's a lot to it. But we're hoping they're working out all the bugs for all of us the counties to be able to join into one overall state program for training personnel. So there could be a time that we have to come back and ask for an additional to ask for more training money to be able to fill some of those positions and help get persons that don't have a CDL license.
But how many vacancies do you have right now?
We have 4 truck drivers, but we typically always have 1 open. So we are down 3, what we would normally be.
So you're 3 down, not counting the one that you keep open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready for item 14A with our Board of Commissioners.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 100000068, General Fund Commissioners, category requests of $649,423 in the personnel category, $5,250 in the supplies category, $3,319,961 in the services category, for a total of $3,974,634.
Second.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm gonna
It's an
start this
ensemble.
show, I know. So this is the County General, right, Commissioner 0068? Yeah, just for everyone's information, this budget provides for the general operations of the Commissioner's Office. Addresses the personnel expenses for Soil and Water Conservation District. Provides a tax rate for the community intellectual disability and the community mental health centers.
We have a little trouble hearing.
Sorry. Okay. I'm not usually quiet.
Yeah.
So. Provides financial assistance to the BEDC, HealthNet, formerly known as VIM, 4-H, and for a number of veterans events. It also provides the Rural Transit Grant match money, does the elected officials bonds, and takes care of the non-health insurance that's required by the county. So this budget before you today, there's a couple of items that are higher than normal, or that we've not always included. We have included a communications manager position. And this position had actually gone through WIS before we went through the reclassification. So it has not been actually weighted, I believe, in the new formula. However, it was a PAT. I don't remember now the old ones, but I submitted it as if it was a PAT A 35-hour first-year employee. We have also included in the professional services the option of an increased $25,000 in the event that you would prefer that the communications be handled through a contractual agreement. The insurance line reflects a 9% increase. I don't have the numbers yet for 2023. And hopefully that 9% is sufficient. Some people I talked to are not confident of that particular number. So I'll let you know next year if I'm back. And the other one that's different this year is the support for boards. This one looks like we've significantly increased that amount. However, it does include the $10,000 for girls coding. And it also includes, and this was just an arbitrary number that I came up with, of 35,000, in that the county is in some conversation with the city on combining the human rights commissions, and that would, the city would have a designated person that's actually focusing on the Human Rights Commission. They're going to provide literature, education to the community, and obviously the investigation of claims. That number, as I said, is arbitrary, and obviously it'd be dependent upon you guys whether or not you would approved of that kind of marriage, if you will, of our two entities. So, but that is what is included in that particular line. Oh, yeah, oh, yes, and the BEDC line in this particular budget, I doubled it for some reason, so we need to just cut that in half to 5,250.
Okay, great.
Follow that?
Yeah, actually, I think I managed to. I'll start on my right with questions. Yes, Mr. Iverson.
If we could go to the support for boards line, please. I appreciate the note in here, and I just want to make sure that I've got the math right. It's 10,000 for girls coding, which is wonderful. Yay, it's awesome. Number two is $35,000 for city interlocal. And then the third item is HRC at $5,000. Am I reading that right?
No, no, sorry, that 5,000 is actually for, generally, we help with the MLK Day, also with Lemonade Day. And so there are other awards that we support throughout the year, and that's just that. what
Okay.
That takes care of.
Excellent. I just want to make sure I got my commas correct and all that math was right. That's the question I have for now, but I'll probably have more later.
Sure. Questions to my left? Go ahead.
Well, okay, so I'll do the easy one since, yeah, but we'd seen that the BEDC line had been doubled too. Council, I move that we reduce line 33032 BEDC to $5,250.
Second.
Is there any question or discussion on this motion? Do you?
Absolutely.
5,250. That's that 1 year membership.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no questions, then all those in favor of reducing the BEDC line as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
So then on the communications manager is my preference would definitely be to do that through the professional services. And it seems like so is your office of the commissioners okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So through professional services, not through the position. So council, I move we set line 15860 communications manager to 0.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from council?
And I'm recognizing that position might at some point go through WIS for classification. There's still maybe some interest in the future. I'm okay with that.
All right, all in favor of setting the communications manager line to 0 as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Nay. Something. Motion passes. There was no nay, sorry. It was,
Getting a little punchy.
don't say no, say nay. Right, it was me messing up. No nays.
And I'll just say I support the additional support for boards. I like seeing those, all of those initiatives.
It's just to bounce off of that one. The support for boards, that is 35,000. Would that, is the idea that that's half of a full-time support staff kind of person? And okay.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Okay, okay, great. That's the number that has been floated and they don't know anything definite at this point, but that's. what's going
I
on.
can add that Mr. Cockrell and I are working with Ms. McKinney, who's currently the HRC director, on getting a draft MOU. And in that draft MOU, we'll have a clearer idea of numbers.
So this would be paying for her replacement?
In part.
Well,
I think there's a little bit of restructuring on how they will be handling the HRC. In essence, this will be half of a position that will be able to do an educational component, which our HRC is lacking. They will be able, right now, our HRC kind of handles complaints and as they come in, and we don't really have a community outreach, and this position will, or developing an MOU with the city will fill that gap. We'll be able to have an educational component.
And this would be a city employee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it would be a city employee. The board would be combined. I think we would have 2 members. Don't exactly remember how it all played out.
Sure.
our part of the board gets smaller, their part of the board gets smaller. Together, they're one board with appointments from the county, appointments from the city. But this is something that our Human Rights Commission is interested in pursuing as well. Obviously, this is not something we just decided without them. So I just wanted to point that out.
That was my next question. Awesome. Thank you. Let's continue. Yeah.
I think, and this combination just affects Human Rights Commission only. We're not talking about expanding that to the women's commissions of both entities or
No.
environmental commission. Okay. Okay. And is it, has this initiative mostly been the two human rights commissions kind of working together, bringing that to the respective entities, or are you all engaging with the city on this, or how does that mostly work?
I could tell you my side of it, and that is that we've engaged with the city and had that conversation just to find out if that was even something they were interested in. And so when they got back with us and said, yeah, they were interested in it, then it's kind of, at this point, we're just kind of wanting to see how it would be accepted by the council and whether or not it's even something we can consider to go forward with. So that's kind of why we're here at this point in time.
Thank you very much.
And I can elaborate, Councilman Deckard, on why this makes sense for the Human Rights Commission. Our commission often jointly does activities or events with the city. For example, they jointly march in the 4th of July parade. So they already collaborate quite a bit.
The only thing I would say is, and I haven't served as a council rep on the Women's Commission in like 3 terms, but I would say that I know that they had talked about potential opportunities. And so that's why I was trying to like kind of figure out scope and willingness. I love the fact that the 2 commissions are championing it and that we're honoring something coming from commissions, because I think sometimes commissions, they get down in things and get under the weather on it.
Yeah, and if I might, the HRC is such a different commission from all of our other boards and commissions, right? There are areas of overlap between the City Sustainability Commission and our Environmental Commission and the Women's Commissions, right? But in this case, it's because they are complaint oriented. It becomes a process that does take time for staff. And that's why we think this makes sense. It doesn't mean that other commissions can't work with city commissions. They certainly can. But I think the expense is related to that part of it as well as the outreach part, if that makes sense.
So again, just to follow on that, what staff or staff time then would be alleviated on the county side by funding this?
That will be definitely our legal department. And they're already a little bit haggard as it is, so I think they would greatly appreciate being able to have someone else who's actually focused on that. That's their sole focus. So, but I don't want to speak for.
Okay, so it's more than just outreach. It's also the handling of these complaints and.
Yes. So legal currently works with, once an HRC complaint is received, the attorney acts to help lead the investigation with one of the HRC commissioners. And so I worked probably about a good week on an HRC complaint a couple months ago. The other thing I think combining the commissions does is I think it helps the public with knowing who to contact. Frequently we get calls where it's like, oh, well, actually you need to contact city, and city does the same vice versa. So I think this will also help the public channel their human rights complaints to where they need to go.
Makes sense. Are there other questions down this way? Okay.
Yes, I want to thank the commissioners for giving the maximum allowed increase in budget for mental health and the 5% growth quotient increase for developmental disabilities. I have a question, and that is on HealthNet, which saw no increase at all from 2022. Do you have a comment?
They did not request an increase. They generally come to us and share their budget requests, and they did not request an increase. They have been consistently, actually very consistent in the amount that they've requested. They generally don't ask for more. I think the 250 went up maybe 2 years ago.
That's what I could see.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's also a very different organization than it was a couple of years ago. I
It
mean, it's not
is.
Volunteers in Medicine anymore.
Yeah.
It's a statewide. You know, it's-
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes.
I want to talk about the rural transit line, please. Number one, I don't understand the note. Can you explain that note?
That's,
I mean, that could be just me.
No,
yeah, I
that's,
was gonna
what that
ask
is
you.
I'm ACP, that's
Uh-huh.
my name.
Uh-huh.
To telephone Chris, because I had a question.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a new system
No.
or, a new- yeah,
No,
all right.
it's purely, it was a note for me to know that I needed to contact Chris Myers of Rural Transit because I had a question. So that's all that was.
So, but the $4,000 increase is,
Actually, the $4,000 increase, it's actually a $14,000 increase. It looks like a $4,000 increase based on current amount. However, what they had actually requested of us and what was put in our grant application was $66,000 in match money for Monroe County government. And the additional amount, 14,000, if we can give them that 14,000, then they can do $28,000 worth more of transit services than if they didn't get that 14,000. So they're actually they're over $100,000 kind of down. So they'd be leaving over $200,000 on the table, if you will. But this would be our way of helping them to kind of bridge some of that gap. That's all that
Okay.
is.
all right.
Questions? Yes.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to confirm as far as your thoughts go, Madam Chair. This is, in this particular budget as well as one we've already voted on and will continue to, there will be several elected officials with salaries, but the idea is to handle all the elected official salaries later on in the budget process together, right?
Yes.
So we're basically not touching them as we're,
Yep, we are going to leave all of the elected official salaries as proposed and deal with that after the budget sessions.
but still part of this year's process. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Excellent. And I believe that's shared with the commissioners, the proposals.
Yes.
We would appreciate this. This grid could be enacted.
Great. Question.
So, as a liaison for the Women's Commission, who you're just a little bit mighty and we're getting on our way, we thank you. Because we have girls coding and some of the commissioners there are very, I shouldn't say some, all are very excited. I'm looking at, you have mentioned Lemonade Day and MLK Day. And I usually attend a lot of MLK events. My question is, what exactly is, and I've been before where the commissioners will come and make statements, but what funds exactly go towards MLK Day?
It's generally a sponsorship.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Usually for the main speaker.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it just appears to me, I can pull this up on the screen again, that a lot of work that was put in place to bring over social services and such things as this over to Sophia Travis Lodges, that there's been a committee established and it's been working well, I thought. But now, rather than having these things in that Sophia Travis, now we're seeing all kinds of these kinds of things also in the commissioner's budget. So do we have like two separate budgets, or are we just thinking, well, whoever asks first gets more? Or I'm just saying this is getting away from what the effort had been, so that there would be a group to look at things that were being requested.
Well, so which ones are you
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about in
well, you can
particular?
see that I can't pull it up, so.
Like, I
but
mean, like,
do have it sort of memorized.
because like Health Net has never been part of Sophia Travis. That was always from the very
No,
beginning that was
I
exempted.
know, but there's other things in here, as you well know, just like support for boards, but then there's other things included in that really could have been brought to the Sophia Travis Fund, like the girls coding book. Those are things. Now, if everybody is perfectly happy with it this way, that's fine. I just wanted to put that out there that I do think it is growing into a situation where it's no longer, so maybe the commissioners want their own. And then the council will have their own, if that's right.
The reason they're in this budget is, and specifically this line, is because we've had specific boards and commissions request this funding. This is not, we didn't get the request as the Board of Commissioners. We got the request from the Women's Commission for Coding Day, et cetera. That it truly is what our boards and commissions are asking us to do.
Yeah, these are our boards and
So
commissions.
they need to ask from the Sophia Travis Fund, in my opinion. But you know what? I'm just one of seven, so thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I would like to comment that the Sophia Travis Grant Fund, which is tax money that we allocate for various community services, cannot be spent for Monroe County government endeavors. And that came down from the State Board of Accounts. So there is a separation there that's important for us to follow.
Thank you. That was good to know.
Okay. Are there other questions or comments on this budget? Either to my left or to my right? Yes.
Again, excuse me if this is out of turn. But and just looking at the budget, and I know I had a couple of constituent emails and conversations about, I know obviously it would be up to the commissioners to do this, but is there, for county employees, is there any, what's my train of thought here? Let me get back. Any type of works or any plans for the future for like paying medical leave for employees?
That has not been discussed. I'd be happy to talk with you
Okay.
about that at some point. I will tell you that Monroe County government's benefits are very, very generous to our employees. But that has not been a conversation, but certainly willing to talk to you about it.
Yeah,
Is it-
definitely.
So it's my understanding, though, that the county does not have parental leave at all.
Does not have what? I'm sorry.
Parental leave?
Yeah, no, we just have the general FMLA leave. And so if you've got your benefits saved up, then you're covered.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
But if you haven't saved that up, then you just have the FMLA leave that secures your job. You don't get paid then.
Yes.
Well, and then, okay, along the same lines, have the commissioners set the rates for the employee contributions to health insurance this year yet? Is there any talk about further subsidizing employee premiums or?
No, we do we work very hard to keep those rates as low as we possibly can. And at this point, Monroe County takes on 80% of the costs associated with all of our benefits. That's Anthem, it's also our health clinic, it's the incentives that are provided to employees. And then the employees are responsible for 20%. And that's only of the two normal plans, if you will. The HSA plan is different. And I believe that, I think that Monroe County is supplementing like 92% of that particular program as opposed to the 80-20. So no, there is there is no conversation to supplement any more than what is already as it is. When we were first presented with the information, our broker was initially recommending a 4% increase. And after much conversation and arguing, I got it down to 2.8%. And I think that that's I think that's an appropriate, and it's, although it is an increase, we have managed to keep it flat for more than anybody else.
So employee premiums are only going up 2.8% this
Correct.
year, or for 2023. Thank you.
Mhm.
Across all three plans that are offered.
Yeah, well, yeah, two, yes, I guess all of them. Yeah, I can certainly talk about this. And this had been posed to us earlier this year regarding the abortion coverage under our health plan. And we have reached out to our broker, who is in conversations with Anthem. We can in fact have and support abortion services that are not, I wish I had the language in front of me, but you know, the coverage that we had initially is the one that's for the benefit of the mother and if the child is, it's in the state statute, I believe is how it's written, how it was. However, now we can elect to provide coverage for what are maybe considered more of an elective. I don't like to use that word. And they can go out of state, and the travel is covered, becomes part of their insurance. I've only talked about it. I don't have it in front of me, so.
We'll come back and share more information.
When do you anticipate knowing about that?
Well, it went into effect August 1st, I believe, is when we talked to them, but I haven't got the paperwork from the broker, but as soon as I get it, I will certainly share it with you guys.
So I'm just kind of processing out loud. You're anticipating that county health insurance in the coming year will be covering abortion services out of state, including travel.
Correct. Actually, that's going to be in effect now.
Okay.
Yeah, we requested it go into effect 1st of August.
Fantastic. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for looking into that.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it, and I appreciate the bumper sticker.
Yeah. Just as a follow-up, thank you all for doing that. So definitely think that's important. And a choice for folks to use. Is there, as you said, is it fully covered? Is there like a cap, or is there a certain amount?
I have to look into that and see. It is, my understanding is that it falls under the insurance, and so it goes toward the not the total out of pocket, but the other deductible. So I will get you, I talked to this about a month ago, and I've slept since then. Well, and the brain is a sieve, I'm telling you, it's just a sieve.
We wanted to make sure that travel was covered.
Yeah.
Based on what the state did. So it sounds like things are in the works. It's just more details. will
Yes,
be
get it out to
forthcoming.
everybody,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the ideas that Auditor Smith was actually bringing up was the possibility of increasing the county's contribution to the HSA. Is it, what's it called?
Yeah, there is the HSA.
Yes.
You have to be careful with that, because there's only a certain amount you can actually contribute, and that, you know, you can't exceed it at a certain amount that goes into that HSA. The other thing is that's not, I mean, it would be made available to all employees, but not all employees really can use that if they have an ongoing health condition, it may not be their best plan for them. For employees who are generally healthy, don't have a lot of issues, it's a great plan for them. But I think that we would be eliminating some people who may have some medical conditions that just could not take that as an option.
Okay.
But if there's a proposal that somebody wants to send, I'm sure we could look at it and see, but I just don't know what we'd be able to do.
Right. I think generally, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think we're interested in creative ways of letting our county employees know how valuable they are. And, you know, that's why I keep asking
I will
about
tell you the
random.
best way you can do that is give us raises, speaking as a county employee.
Duly noted, duly noted.
Call the question.
Are there other questions or comments from council on this budget? And I will remember to have it restated because we've made some changes. Yes.
I just want to reiterate, I know I had a thought earlier and I lost it and I came back, but getting back to and in respect to making sure employees are feeling respected, I think one of the biggest ways that we can do that with it's no surprise that we're having issues with retaining employees for whatever reasons, whether it's a pay increase or it's benefits or anything like that. And there are competitive places, other employers in town that definitely are taking employees from various places such as Monroe County. So I definitely, I know it was discussed just a little bit ago of us revisiting, but I really am interested in seeing how county can, our here, council would be able to speak with our commissioner colleagues in regards to paid leave for parents, because as a parent and with my husband being able to leave and get paid with his employer, I think that would definitely be noted. And a couple of constituents definitely said that would greatly benefit them a lot. So any way that we can facilitate this in order to retain the health of our employees and the integrity of them here, I'm definitely all for that.
Any other comments or questions on this? Okay. Please summarize.
I'm going to be doing some summarization here.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Where were we? Okay. For fund 10000068 general fund commissioners, category requests of, all right, 640,420 in the personnel category, then $5,250 in the supplies category, and finally in the services category, $3,314.
Yeah, I support that.
Yeah, services, yeah, there we go. In the services category, $3,314,711. For a total of small again, $960,381. That's it.
All right. Are you okay?
Right about? Yeah.
All right. So now I will ask you all very seriously, all those in favor of accepting the Commissioner's General Fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. 6 ayes, 1 nay. Do we need, okay.
While we're at it, can we maybe order kind of special council reading glasses? Like with the county logo on it. They can all just be-
I want to, so anyone watching,
as we
My
all. age.
struggles are, I'm reading the changes from a screen and it's a little smaller than I'm.
Yeah, I know, I can, yeah. I'm having trouble with my spreadsheets too.
Yeah, but I don't think.
Well, and when I go to the search.
Did I do it wrong
Then it
again?
wouldn't pull up,
And they can't
you
make it
know,
bigger.
and that's frustrating, but then
I'm
a while
just-
ago I got one.
I'm just looking at the spreadsheet that Kim sent out.
Okay,
location.
I forgot to
So then
remove
it's
the
like switches
communication
company
manager's
search
amount
for it.
from the
I mean,
personnel.
rather than going
So
up
we
and
need to
down.
restate that total. Sorry.
I'm gonna do it again. So we
And,
got-
and you are taking that from also from FICA and PERF, right?
I
Right.
removed the
And,
FICA and perf. I forgot to remove the salary part.
Okay,
I
and
mean, I've
then
got it
also
now, so
for
it's a little
the health benefits.
So where-
Part of- At the health benefits.
Oh, you included the health benefit as well?
Oh, yeah, I included it all.
Oh, one moment.
Okay, see, I would do like that. And then it would just say.
Because I don't want to do it in my
Like
head.
I
So
want to do
96
county
minus.
commissioners.
Said that very chic.
It would tell me it.
Oh, you need to show it. I'll show it.
Not too shabby.
That time, I know it's from our county.
Oh.
Fix it. So then I was. thinking about the- it was 600. But then, yeah, that's-
Okay, I have the new updated total now. Sorry.
You good now?
Yes.
All right.
Kim,
This one.
Michelle,
Okay.
Yeah.
is it possible just when he's reading for you to zoom in on your screen at all?
No, after this is over, I'm gonna have Greg help me
Okay.
for tomorrow, but right now, sorry.
Okay.
All right.
We're back to the souvenir reading glasses. so.
If you enjoyed that before, you're gonna see it again, folks. Here we go. Here we go. I'm in fund 1-0-0-0-0-3-0-7, general,
No,
no. Did I move?
0068.
Sorry. In fund 1-0-0-0-0-0-68, general fund commissioners, category requests of, here we go.
Personnel.
In the personnel category, $587,218, $587,218. In the supplies category, $5,250. In the services category, $3,314,711, for a total of $3,907,179.
Now, all those in favor of accepting the commissioner's general fund budget requests as just recited by the lovely Trent Deckard, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes.
Trying to figure
Six-
One nay.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
It's fine.
As secretary note, this passes, but it negates the last vote, which was a vote on a wrong total. That was a Scrivener's error on our part. So I just want to make sure for the
For
record.
the record. Thank you. We are now moving to item 14B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1,00161, General Fund County Buildings, category requests of $301,433 in the personnel category, $77,580 in the supplies category, $1,830,671 in the services category, for a total of $2,209,684.
Second.
All right. What would you like to tell us about this one?
Well, this budget is actually relatively simple. This budget provides for the maintenance and janitorial personnel and the provision of security at the securities at Justice Building in Curry But the janitorial and maintenance personnel is for all of our county buildings. It also provides the service contracts for all of our building needs and deals with trash, water, waste, and recycling. And I believe that this is only reflecting a $12,986 increase. So there's nothing significant in this particular budget. Some lines may appear to be considerably larger to you. However, it was last year's budget. There was the Justice Building Maintenance line. I think that was Justice Building Management. You will see is that was it 809,000, and we've reduced it to 643,325. This is just a better reflection of what's actually covered by in those each those buildings. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Sorry, I was enjoying reading about the clock winder.
Yeah,
I love that.
it's awesome, isn't it?
I know.
Yes. Are there any questions or comments to my right? Yes.
Yes, I noticed one decrease, which I thought I should ask about, and that is the grounds line, and it says mulch, ice, melt, repairs, etc., window cleaning.
Yeah, that's actually because we were able to reduce that line because we have a service contract for
Okay,
the
that's good.
the lawn.
Thank you.
So
And I don't really understand the Johnson building maintenance. It's, if you would explain that, please.
sure, the Johnson Building, that takes care of the providing the maintenance personnel and the cleaning services for that particular building. And so the Johnson, both probation's upstairs and photo registrations downstairs. I think juveniles around this corner. But that's what that takes care of.
It's just different from what was budgeted for 2022, which was, roughly half that amount.
Right, but that's because the other line was grossly over budgeted for, when we looked at how personnel is actually being used, because we have a contract that
Okay.
provides this personnel, both the maintenance and the janitorial. And so depending on how their time is kind of attributed to the different buildings, that's how we came up with
Okay,
these numbers.
all right. Thank you.
Got it. Are you currently recruiting for the maintenance person opening? Hi.
We are.
I see. If you can do, yeah, use a mic if you don't mind.
Yes, we are recruiting. We've posted, I've received, I think, 5 resumes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Conducted 1 interview and waiting back on some information. So
Oh, good.
I'm hopeful.
Okay.
And that's Richard Kreider. He's our new fleet and building manager.
Congratulations and welcome to your new position. All right, are there questions to my left? Any more down this way? Okay, I believe then all those in favor of accepting the Commissioner's General Fund County Buildings Budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. Now we move to 14C.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 10000307, General Fund Fleet Category Request of $74,662 in the personnel category and $28,700 in the services category for a total of $103,332.
Second.
Okay, this is a relatively new budget. I think it's 21, maybe when it first came into being. This county general component pays 75% of our building and fleet manager salary. It also provides for the maintenance and replacement bodywork kind of costs for the non-law enforcement vehicles. I will make a note just for the record. I don't think it's really going to be a problem next year. But we have the assessors, we've got the assessor a vehicle. And so we did not include that in this particular budget. But I think that we can make it still work. And next year I'll just add a line for the assessor.
Great. Are there any questions about this budget to my right? To my left? No? Okay, it seems pretty straightforward and yeah, sure.
So the current fleet maintenance plan cycles vehicles out so that we don't have old vehicles hanging out on the lot, essentially, correct? The Inflation Reduction Act, just passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden, has some provisions for electric vehicles. Is that going to have any impact on our vehicle plan that we have here? I mean, that's a federal law and we're talking about local policy, but I just wanted to, see if maybe that's going to percolate down.
So I'm gonna have to look into that. But currently I've been looking into electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles. I'm in the very early stages of that. I started with the state's QPA pricing list and have kind of moved forward from there. That led me to Community Ford locally. And we've been discussing the availability of some hybrid vehicles, and availability is a challenge right now.
Yeah.
And and I'm waiting back for some information on them with that. And that's about as far as I've got.
Okay. But just to be clear, as we're looking into the future and maybe the car market's going to settle down a little bit and availability is going to increase, that it's in the plan to eventually transfer our fleet from gasoline to electric vehicle as much as possible.
As much as possible. Yep. I really want to evaluate where it makes sense and then go from there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Drive Clean. We've an organization called Drive Clean reached out to us about partnering with us with electric vehicles, providing some loaner vehicles, taking data from those. And that's, again, it's very early. We're going to do a conference call next week. And then I'm looking at towards beginning of 2023 for that to get launched.
That's really interesting. When you have that phone call, you kind of know, if you could let the Environmental Commission know about that, I think they'd really be interested in hearing
Okay.
about that potential.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. So the other thing is part of the ARPA plans or projects is the solar enhancement extension, if you will, for Monroe County government. And we would have much more solar powered
EV charging.
Charging
Thank you.
stations. Yeah.
Those. Thank you. So that is definitely something that we're looking to doing with our fleet. So we're definitely trying to look to the future and be considerate of our environment. So
And that's really exciting because as county staff start to buy more EVs as they come onto the market, we'll have that ability for them to charge in addition to driving county fleet vehicles that are EVs. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, that's mine. I'm done.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Right. I just wanted to throw out there because I often think of things and then forget to follow up. So that's why I'll just get it out. Also, as a part of the Infrastructure Act or in conjunction with that, there were funds for lots of EV charging stations on highways. And because of that, the US Access Board has issued guidelines for making charging stations accessible. I mentioned this in the NPO meeting. So just to keep that in mind as you're looking to do different things in the county, that sometimes the standards are the very minimum you can do, and there are guidelines that are indicating higher level of service. So
Thank
Just
you.
throwing that out there.
Thank you for sharing that because I have to admit that I didn't even consider it, but that's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, no more questions, no more comments. Let's move on this and all those in favor of accepting the Commissioner's General Fund Fleet Budget Request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We move to 14D.
Council, I moved to open for discussion and review Fund 11140068 Lit Special Purpose Commissioners category requests of $20,000 in the services category, $85,000 in the capital category for a total of $105,000.
Second.
Commissioners, this is the lit special purpose and it provides for the Youth Services Bureau. And because they have their own tax rate, we have, at least as long as I have been for the Board of Commissioners, we pay their utilities and the building maintenance costs from their fund, but it has a commissioner location. And so that way we can kind of keep track of the utilities and building costs. And then as far as the vehicle is concerned, this vehicle, they've been trying to get this vehicle for at least 2 years. It was originally presented to you guys in a bond and you recommended that it come from this fund. We do have a contract, I'm told, for $57,000, but I beefed it up just because I don't trust. So that's.
So when we look back at the previous year's budgets for that line, that wasn't expended, or are we?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. Are there any council questions or comments to my right? To my left? Okay, in that case, all those in favor of accepting the Lit Special Purpose Commissioners Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And we move to 14E.
Council, I moved to open for discussion and review Fund 1138-0000 Cumulative Capital Development category requests of $745,564 in the personnel category, $1,120,000 in the services category, $2,466,000 in the capital category, for a total of $4,331,564.
Second.
Okay, this is our cumulative capital development fund, and it's a rate fund. And this fund provides basically the majority of our technical services department's personnel expenses such as software, maintenance, computer replacement, contractual requirements for IT related events. It also has the copier lease payment in there. And just for information, when the city, I think it was, cut the fiber going to the Justice Building and all of that, that's how we were able to pay for that particular repair as quickly as we were, because we had that contractual amount right there. It also pays for our sheriff's vehicles, sheriff body armor, and the replacement repair, it's the body work of the sheriff vehicles. Also, this is where all of our buildings repair costs come from. And it also provides matching funds for the highway and airport grant projects. We have one line that's, I know that Commissioner Hawk usually comments about, that's our special purpose line. And to give you an idea how we used it this year is that it allowed us to make the renovations on the Napa building before the request for the appropriation in the actual election fund. So we're able to do a correction on there. And then it also provided us the ability to do the cleanup of the encampment behind the at-home facility. So This is the highest. I don't like to see this budget particularly this high. It's like 412,000 more than it was last year. I'm hoping, I know that our new TSD director, he is working hard on getting our software in line and our computer replacement more on a regular schedule. Hopefully we can get these things down after next year. And if you have any specific questions regarding TSD, Mr. Cron will be happy to answer those questions.
Welcome back. Are there questions to my right? No, yes, maybe. Not your last chance.
It's not my last, I'll pass right now.
Okay.
I think Jeff's gonna ask.
No, actually,
You don't have anything?
I'm
right,
I'm
I'll
good
ask
with this budget.
Okay, all right. go ahead.
Would you like to talk about the thing that you're here to talk about?
That would be the software line.
That's right.
That's exactly what I was.
The elephant in the room is-
I mean, you're here.
Okay, so what we've got in our software line, so far since I've taken over this position, I haven't taken on any new expenditures as far as that software goes. Right now, I'm a little bit right at 110,000 in the red. We budgeted 600,000 this past year. The year prior was actually 700,000. So there was a reduction this last year. Right now, I'm paying the bills that have come due. This is the reoccurring service agreements for our Microsoft, our Adobe, all these software programs. So this isn't for anything additional. This is just to maintain what we currently have. I'm actually trying to work some of our programs like the KnowBe4 software we use. I entered in a state's agreement where that software is now free to us through the state's contract. That's saving us $28,000 right there. I'm also looking to pare down. We have SurveyMonkey accounts throughout the account with the different departments. I'm trying to pare that down to get a bulk rate on that, reduce those costs. So I'm hoping to get this reduced. I don't know how much I can reduce this over the next year because software costs go up. The more equipment we add, the higher our Microsoft licensing gets. So I don't expect much of a decrease, but I'll do the best I can to get that number down.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this budget?
And I guess this is just a comment because, just for everybody's information, because there are so many different lines in the capital category. I want to call it the 40s. That's what we used to call it in the capital categories. The office can pretty much just move money around between the 40s at will, between the capital categories at will. So if software comes in low, then that money can be repurposed to something, to trails or to the airport infrastructure or, ADA compliance or whatever, or vice versa. If the software comes in high, then the commissioner's office can move from one of those other capital categories. So there's always a little bit of flux between the individual lines.
The software's in the three.
Oh,
is in the
sorry,
services.
software, you're right, software is in the services. But computer replacement or special projects or anything like that.
Yeah, we do get creative as we can within those lines. If we find that one is obviously going too far one way, then we can try to make the corrections as necessary. But if you will look at the software line in 2021, we expended 678,000 that year. In 2020, we expended 622. Not sure why I submitted a budget of 600,000 for this year based on those two prior expenditures, but bless you. Oh, that's right. After. Thank you.
I had a quick question. On the, if I'm reading this right, on parking garage, is that saying that our last payment on that is in 2030?
There's actually,
2040.
there's one that's
2040.
2040. I think there's actually two that we're paying. I can tell you exactly. I have it at home, but what I printed off here, I don't
Okay.
have that information.
Okay, all right. Thank you, though.
But I think one is in 2030 and the other one goes to 2040.
Okay.
Okay,
Is that what it says? Okay, thank you.
And that's for,
Parking.
Our
garage.
parking garage, the county parking garage.
So that's two different installment contracts on
Yeah.
the same garage.
Yeah.
essentially.
thank you. That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Question?
Yes. I'm looking at ADA Title VI compliance, and that is a significant decrease from 2022 and 2021, which was 70,000 down to 30,000 for next year.
The reason for that is our expenditures have only been in the 2000.
Okay.
25. I think in 2019, it looks like it was 13,000. Many of these capital kind of ADA corrections or amendments that we do are done through, like the highway has their own with the sidewalks, and parks, we're doing much of that with a bond request or bonds that are already in place. Highway, when we move them, then we can make those ADA corrections in their new facility. So the need to have a particular line at that high of a level, we're finding it isn't necessary. And obviously, if something did come up and we needed to do that, we could
Shuffle.
come back either back to you guys, or we could hopefully do a transfer that
Yeah.
something else wasn't
Okay,
spending as much.
thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
I had a couple of questions. Looking at the special projects where I know earlier, the encampment place on the west side was cleaned up. I'm just curious to know if there's been any follow-up and go back to see if there has been rebuilt of encampments or anything like that.
I actually can't speak to that, other than the fact, okay, so.
Surprise.
Yes, I swing by there weekly. I just do a drive-by just to check things out, and it's pretty clear. So I don't think anything, else has happened or anything else is being built or anything like that.
And I would say that the property owner from at home would have no problem reaching out. And then I also think that our sheriff's department, they've got the view is such that they can just now see straight down. So that's.
They really cleaned that up. You could just drive by and see the whole thing.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And the other question is, and I don't know who could speak to this, is the computer replacement. So I see that has gone up at least 10,000 for this year for a budget. Just out of curiosity, what happens to the computers that you are replacing? Are they salvageable? Do you have to take them back to be refurbished? Can we donate some of those things? Just curious about that.
Well, for a good number of years, the county attempted to sell these through public auction at surplus at highway. What we found out is none of it would sell because it was so outdated that we ended up having to pay to dispose of that hardware.
Okay.
So what TSD's done for the last several years, there's a company out of Indianapolis called Technology Recyclers. And they will come on site with a box truck. They will load up all that equipment and take it for the salvage metal. It doesn't cost us anything. We pull the hard drives and wipe them out prior to those going out. So there is no data, nothing, no compromise there. But instead of us having to pay to dispose of those materials as we've always had to do in the past, now we give it to them and they take it for free. So it's without cost to us.
Okay.
And then I can add, because Greg's not aware of this, but we have donated or are currently in the process of donating some of the more rugged laptops to the Steinsville. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
For the library.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Those were reclaimed control car laptops. So they've been well worn and well loved, but Steinsville was very appreciative.
Awesome. Thank you.
What is the turnover in computers, laptops and desktops, I guess.
Service life is average 3 to 5 years, depending on the hardware, desktops, kind of keep them, laptops. Depending on the use, it's typically about 3 when we start looking. Some of them that are lesser used, a lot of people that are on docking stations most of the time used as a desktop. Those will push out to 5 years if we can still patch them, they're serviceable. We can do the OS upgrades and everything. to keep them
Right.
Security compliant, so.
Great. I had a question about the. are you finished? It's like I was Jumping in. The parks alternative transportation for $500,000 and it says trail connection, I think. Is that confirmed now?
It is confirmed,
Okay,
yes.
Okay. And which?
It's actually a highway project. I think it's the Bicentennial Trail, if I recall correctly. That's, and I apologize because Lisa knows all of these things so very well. But I believe it's money that we're needing for the Bicentennial Trail, which is that on Sample?
Old
Or
37.
Yeah.
On street bike lanes for
Yeah.
Old 37.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, not by me.
Great, great, great. Are there any other questions or comments on this one? All right, in that case, all those, we didn't change anything, right? Yeah, all those in favor of accepting the cumulative capital development fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And now we have 14F.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1170-0068, Public Safety Lit Commissioners, category requests of, in the capital category, $173,000 for a total of $173,000.
Second.
Council, this, as you know, is a public safety lit with the commissioner's location. And the only item in this is the payments for body cameras. And I believe it was last year this was approved. It's a 5-year agreement and it provides for a total of 100 body cameras and 4 interview room cameras. Now, I will tell you that I found the contract and you could reduce this amount to $165,000 if you want.
So even though it says radios in our
Yes, even though it
notes,
says radios,
it-
see that again, that was, sorry, I didn't realize you guys were gonna get my notes.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why we put them in there.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's helpful.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, it's some insights, but like, yeah, I think, yeah, it's like, oh. Yeah, no, it's actually cameras.
Council, I move we reduce line 47,100, equipment law enforcement to $165,000.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? No? All in favor of reducing the line as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Any other questions? Is this, Ms. Purdy, you probably already said this. But is this an annual contract? Is that, so every year it's going to be about that?
Yes, it's
Okay.
5 years, and I believe it's gonna term in 2025. So I'll
And we
just double
probably
check.
just keep going though.
There'll probably be a
because-
new one.
Yeah, okay,
And that includes all the cloud storage and everything
Yes,
for all the
yeah,
videos.
yeah.
great.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
cameras.
Okay, we will
Covers it all.
reread.
I'm going to reread this. So Fund 1170-0068, Public Safety Lit Commissioners, category request of, in the capital category, $165,000 for a total of $165,000.
All in favor of accepting the Public Safety Lit Commissioners Fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're now moving to 14G.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1170-0068, Public Safety Lit Fleet, category requests of $24,776 in the personnel category and $104,000 in the services category, for a total of $128,766.
Second.
Is that the correct line?
The 128,766.
That's what I see.
That's
Okay,
what I see
just
as
thought
well.
these two were supposed to match, and I just- No, it's fine. I just,
Strong chance I did.
I don't,
It could be any of us if it's anything at all.
so many opportunities for error. It's amazing. No, I'm just looking,
It's a strong vote of confidence right there.
it's 1170-0068.
No.
That's what was read.
Oh, this is 1170-0307.
Exactly. Okay.
0307.
Oh,
About the, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Appropriation.
yeah.
Yes.
Let me reread my motion. 766.
Look, we saved $10.
Yeah, in your spreadsheet, it says 766.
Okay. So council, I'm going to restate this motion as corrected to be Fund 1170-0307, Public Safety Lit Fleet category requests of $24,766 in the personnel category and $104,000 in the services category, for a total of $128,766.
Second.
Okay.
Yes, could you tell us about this real quick?
This particular budget provides 25% of the building and fleet managers' salaries, expenses. And it also covers the law enforcement vehicles for their maintenance costs. And there is an increase in this. And I don't know if Richard wants to speak to it, but the sheriff vehicles, their maintenance is difficult at best. And I don't know if you want to share with them about the brake pads.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to try to purchase parts for some vehicles. We have, oh, thanks. We have several, a line of vehicles right now that obtaining the brake rotors and brake pads are a challenge. They're on quite the back order from the factory. And that's what I'm dealing with. Yeah, they're significantly more expensive than normal. I found 3 sets that I was willing to go purchase at the right price, but they were $600 for one set of brake pads, and it's a little crazy. But I'm hoping that one of the aftermarket companies come along very soon with brake pads and help ease that situation.
Yes.
I'm about to go on a ride along in a sheriff's vehicle.
You want to make sure it's got
Do we have brake pads?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, we're good. It's one specific year. There's
Okay.
multiple years in the fleet, but
I mean, I'm also concerned about the officer's safety.
absolutely. Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Because, they can get going pretty fast. And
yeah, definitely.
That's great. You're going to do a ride along. I think that's important.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's my second time.
Questions on this budget? Questions this direction? Nope. All right. Sorry to interrupt. All those in favor of accepting the Public Safety Lit Fleet Fund budget request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes. 14H, please.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 2502-0000, cable franchise user fees, category requests of $558,430 in the services category for a total of $558,430.
Second.
Okay, this is an interesting budget that I've got before you because there is $170,000 budgeted in here that was also budgeted in the County General 106. Correct?
But not on purpose.
So giving you the option of where you would like to see it come from. Now, that said, cable franchise, the 558,000 is going to be a hit to it. Generally, the revenue 2019 was 471,000. 20 was 444,000. 2021 was 446,000. We're on track for probably another 430, 40 some thousand for this year, but it's not going to keep getting higher, I don't believe. It would be the easiest way to explain this. So I just wanted to give you the option of where you wanted to put that telephone maintenance, the additional funding.
Okay. I'll defer to questions.
You guys approved it.
So the question before us is, do you take it out of cable franchise or out of TSD? And it seems cable, cable franchise. is the-
Well, I would think that we'd want to, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But to that point, is there an anticipated cash balance?
Yeah, so I got the draft 4B that I put together shows an operating balance if we pass the budget as is of 19%. So which means we could handle it, but we're definitely eating into what's a cash balance that will never come back. That's like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm concerned about this fund. I'm a lot less concerned now that you told me that. And I sent an email asking about this fund or all these expenses spread out across the funds. And it was not made clear to me that there was a duplication in there. That makes quite a bit of difference. It's good news.
Just keep you on your
Yeah,
toes.
I didn't realize it either, so I didn't know that
Did I
that was.
not make any handy dandy notes in 106?
I don't see anything that says duplicated.
I did in this one.
Yeah, but I missed it, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that will definitely, if we take the duplicated amount out of cable franchise fees, I'll feel much better about. And then some of that will be available for, if there are special projects or emergencies that come up like there did this year when we wound up way short of tech funds, so.
Well, and that's, and I believe also just for the record, the 12,000 training, because I was looked at that and I'm like, why in the world are we doing TSD training out of cable franchise? And I believe that was done at an attempt to help the 106 out of County General.
Council, I move we reduce line 2502 telephone maintenance to $15,000.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion?
This makes sense to me.
All those in favor of reducing as indicated, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Are there other questions or discussion points in this budget?
That relieves my concerns with this budget, so.
Excuse me, you did say reduce it to 15.
Correct.
Yeah. I ask this every single year. Could you tell me what reprographics is?
I asked the same question and
Year. Every
Greg,
year.
He tells me every time, what are reprographics?
Reprographics is our costs associated with our printing for our copiers, to the black and white copies, the color copies, the toner, the service agreements. With another line that I'm actually short in this year, so.
So
and I'm
wait,
trying to get those
so
costs
that's
down.
on top of the line that we just saw
That's on
for
top of your lease
copiers.
agreement, yes, and everything else, right.
Wow. At some point, there's got to be a different way, right? I mean, how much photocopying do we do?
I'm looking for one, and if I can find it, I'll show.
I do like my printing I know, it's like,
Totally.
but still.
I do think we need to recommend that people who do print a lot of things go to a print release. I use that in the office so that when I send a print job to the copier, it doesn't print it automatically. I have to go in and retrieve it because usually what happens is once I've hit that print button, I'm like, oh, I forgot to do, and so I don't ever have to print it. I can just delete it and then correct it. So I'm not printing off those particular mistakes.
Also, let's not forget that we print a lot of receipts for customers. I mean, many, many, many receipts. We work them to death on those printers.
And we do have all the copiers set to black and white by default because black and white is the cheap copy. So
Sure.
that way it forces the user, if they absolutely want a color copy, they've had to select it, not instantly done it. So any little thing we can do to. put that
Yeah.
towards it, we're doing it, so.
Duplex on 4x6. Thank you for that explanation. I'll ask again next year. Yes.
I want to talk about, I think I'm getting an echo on my mic, about the community access TV line. I guess I'm curious to know, now that we record these meetings and then we put them on the website as a Zoom recording, how is that impacting your thoughts on community access TV? And, I'm asking how's this impacting your thoughts?
Well, that's an interesting question. And if you'd asked me this last year, I had a totally different answer. But I'm going to let Greg actually speak to this. I know that we have reached out to CATS again to help us with some of these bigger.
Martin's actually in the back.
Oh, is he? Okay, these bigger kind of meetings. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
That's correct. I've been speaking with Martin and Adam over at CATS, and they're going to start coming back in. They set in this morning for the commissioners meeting to try to get the feel for the new video audio system we have up in the loft. And they've agreed to come back in like we did in the old days and have them doing the commissioners council, these type of meetings. So we're in the process of getting that going and working together, try to get any little gaps filled so we can make that happen.
Yeah, and aren't they going to do something to help us with our feed?
They are. We're changing the network a little bit to get cleaner feed back to the library so that our broadcast looks a little bit more in line with what you see with the city meetings. Ultimately, unless we put a fiber connection in, we're probably not going to achieve the same quality, but we can get better than what we have, yes.
And CATS will still be offered on the internet as well as on local access television, correct? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to add to any of this conversation?
No, I just want to say, we're actually all pretty excited about being able to go back in again and actually record this stuff. It's kind of what we do. Yeah, so everybody's really excited to be doing this and back into it again. We've been doing this since what, 1974. So we'd like to keep on doing it. It's also the fact that, just to point out that what we do isn't just recording the meetings, we also do archiving of the meetings too.
You also come to events that we have scheduled and we forget to tell you about them until like 2 days before. And you still
stuff
come.
happens.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So any sort of funding that we get actually goes to help record community events and stuff like that. So we go out and do a lot of that, and everything we do gets archived. Pardon me, archived for ever. So we have programs, about 50,000 programs that go back to 1974.
It's certainly an important public service. I know at least one person on this dais describes herself as a CATS junkie. So, all right, I'm done.
No, I think we might have a couple other. Do you have a question? Yeah, okay.
I'll defer to other. I just want to make the comment. I was a kid that grew up on Cats, watching literally during the daytime TV. That's what I watched and learned a lot about how some of this works for better or for worse. And so I think that it is a huge thing that we take for granted sometimes in the community to have access to that. There are people that watch and they take their information from it. So it's always good to see you here.
Great, thank you.
Just so my technically challenged self understands what's happening up there. Hi. It's awesome that you're here, but I don't know what you do. So you'll have double, like you'll have our people and your people up there, or?
Well, not excited. So as it is now, now that we're in hybrid meetings, for every one of these we have, it takes two of my technicians. One's doing the camera operation and the other is doing the Zoom moderation. Usually they're doing that remotely.
Okay.
What this will help my section with, during these meetings, Martin's crew and them will be here doing the camera and the audio work. Then that'll only require me then to have one personnel to moderate the Zoom meetings.
And they
So
can do that
freeing up
remotely.
another technician to go out and actually do field work instead of.
Okay, that
spending time
was,
with us.
that was sort of a concern. I'm like,
Yeah.
how many people, I mean, I don't know how much that can hold. So, okay, all right. Any other questions, comments? Councilman Kim?
But I think Council Crossley.
Oh, I was just gonna comment about cats. It's okay, never mind. I like watching cats. I do. In fact, it helped me prep for budget weeks. So there you go. I like cats.
So I have a question about cats, actually. So is our programming copied over to YouTube yet?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've been doing that for about a year and a half now, I think, or a little bit more.
So I did not know that either. So all of the counties, so county council meetings are all now on
Yeah, no,
YouTube.
it only goes back since we started doing, we haven't started doing any older archive meetings, but since you start putting them on there, which I think is about a year and a half, they're all on there. They're on the Cats YouTube channel.
I wish I had known that. I've been wanting that for years. The YouTube interface along with the Zoom interface just works so much better on mobile devices. It's just
Later.
the Cats website is not great for mobile devices. So.
Yeah, I understand. I was trying to do it earlier and I totally, I'm with you. I agree.
All right, thank you. What?
Nothing. Are we good?
Thank you.
Yes.
I just
It's
want
related to the budget.
It is related to the budget. And what, this is just kind of a message for anyone that does watch this in the community. If you're watching these meetings and keep staying up on all the meetings in the community, it's because the public entities in this community invest a lot of that. Not all of our news outlets have continued to do that. This is an important bedrock of this community. And we work and our predecessors work to fund that. So I think that's an important value that sometimes gets lost in that shuffle. When you can't get local news, you can always get Cats and just this raw covers. This is what we're doing. So that's an important thing we have. Not all communities are doing that.
It's a good point. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this budget? All right, then all those in favor of accepting the cable franchise user fees fund budget requests, say aye.
Aye.
We changed the number.
Yeah, I need to restate it.
Sorry, we changed an amount, so he needs to restate that amount
Yes.
for the record.
I apologize.
So I'm gonna just do this fund 2502-0000 cable franchise user fees, category requests of $388,430 in the services category for a total of $388,430.
All of those in favor of accepting the cable franchise user fees fund budget requests as just recorded by Trent Deckard on Cats even, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And this concludes the budget review for the Board of Commissioners. And are there any further comments from council? because this is our last one for this evening. So if there are no further comments, I'd like to recess our budget sessions until tomorrow, which is Thursday, September 8th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.